Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we'll be talking about soon-to-be Hurricane Helene, if not Major Hurricane Helene. So let's go ahead and get into this video. So here is Tropical Depression 9 currently with winds of 30 miles an hour, soon to go up and get to tropical storm status. May already be a tropical storm or hurricane by the time you're watching this video. But let's take a closer look at this on Zoom Earth. This is like Google Maps and the Hurricane Center mixed in one. So here is Tropical Depression 9 currently. Expected to be a tropical depression around 8 a.m. on Tuesday, and then make it to hurricane status around 8 a.m. on Wednesday, and then eventually get to Category 2 hurricane status on the evening of Wednesday, and then continue to strengthen into a stronger Category 2 later in the day on Thursday. And it is expected to make landfall just to the east of Tallahassee, but let's not pay too much attention to this area, as it could make landfall anywhere in this cone area. So let's not pay too much attention to where the line is exactly. Let's continue this here. And it is expected to maintain hurricane strength all the way up into northern Georgia. And I could see this getting increased to Category 3, Category 4. There's a slight chance it could make it to Category 5, but I would think maybe more of a Category 4 hurricane, but we could get a Category 5, so we will have to watch for that, but don't get scared or anything like that. Just make sure to prepare if you live anywhere in Florida or Georgia, and even into the Carolinas and possibly even Alabama. But let's take a look at the GFS model here, starting this around 2 a.m. on September 26th. Here it is at the bottom of your screen. Already has a major hurricane, about a Category 3, most likely, in the early morning of September 26th. And then it does strengthen this down to a 947 millibar, Category 4, most likely, hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, and then makes landfall as about a Category 4 hurricane, and then moves into portions of Georgia and brings some impacts into the Carolinas and into Tennessee as well. But let's take a look at the European model next. Here it is at the bottom of your screen. The European is more conservative normally, but it has it as a borderline Category 1 hurricane. Most likely would be a Category 1 hurricane. It doesn't strengthen it too fast, but it does strengthen it down to a strong Category 1, maybe borderline Category 2 hurricane, as it makes landfall in portions of Florida. And then this does not go out too far, but then it does bring hurricane impacts into Georgia. Next up is the Canadian model, also more conservative, kind of right in between the Euro and the GFS normally. And here it is, it strengthens it down to most likely a Category 3 hurricane or borderline Category 3 hurricane, and then makes landfall into Florida. And I do want to mention this system is going to be very large and most likely moving very fast. So for the initial impacts of landfall, that's good for them, but it's also not good for people that are not getting that direct landfall, as it will be moving very fast, so it will not be losing strength as fast. But it gets to move into Georgia, brings hurricane impacts into Georgia and the Carolinas as well, and then moves on out. Next up is the Icon model. Here it is at the bottom of your screen. Has it as about a Category 1, borderline Category 2 hurricane around September 26th. Starts to strengthen this and then gets to most likely Category 3 status, and then brings hurricane impacts into portions of Florida and Georgia, and then brings some tropical storm, most likely, conditions into the Carolinas and possibly Tennessee, and maybe even all the way up into Kentucky. We will have to watch for that. But next up is hurricane models, excuse me. And this is the H-Wharf model, and it shows it already at most likely Category 1, maybe Category 2, but most likely Category 1 hurricane around September 24th. And then gets it to major hurricane status as it's crossing in between Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula. I will mark this here in, let's see, in pink. And this area right here of land, that's Cuba. Kind of hard to see. But then this area over here is the Yucatan Peninsula. And it wants it to be a major hurricane as it's cutting through the gap. And then it strengthens it all the way down to most likely Category 4, strong Category 4, borderline Category 5 hurricane, making landfall in portions of Big Bend of Florida, and then brings Category 3, maybe even some weaker Category 4 hurricane impacts into central Georgia. So definitely would be very, very bad. But once again, just make sure you are prepared. I don't want to scare anybody, but this could be definitely a very strong system. So definitely, if they order evacuations for your area, please evacuate. As I'm sure they will issue some evacuations in portions of Florida and possibly Georgia. But next up is the H-half-A model. Here it is. Cuba on the right side of your screen, and then the Yucatan Peninsula on the left side of your screen. Wants it to be a major hurricane as it's crossing in between those, and then gets it down to Cat 5 status around September 25th, and then continues to strengthen it. Wants to get it all the way down to an 899 millibar Category 5 hurricane. That would be significant. And then makes landfall as a 900 millibar Category 5 hurricane. This would be catastrophic to Florida. Once again, I don't want to scare anybody, but this would be very dangerous. And then also would have a large tornado threat into Florida and also into portions of Georgia with that east side and with the north and east side of that system. And then it would continue to bring Category 4 and Category 3 wind speeds into Georgia. And then it would just bring some significant damage, most likely, with it. And then also a pretty large tornado threat into portions of Georgia and the Carolinas. So we will need to watch for that tornado threat as well, as that will be very significant. Next up is the H-half-B model. And once again, wants it to get to major hurricane status as it's crossing in between the Yucatan Peninsula and Cuba. Strengthens this down to a Category 5 hurricane. Wants to strengthen it all the way down to an 888 millibar low pressure. Some people would argue that would be unrealistic. Most likely, it's not going to be that strong, but we will have to watch that. But most likely, won't be that strong. And then it does weaken just a little bit before landfall, but still most likely would make landfall as a Category 4 or 5 hurricane, and then bring a large tornado threat into Georgia and South Carolina as well, and Florida as well. So definitely do not want to sleep on this system, as this will be very, very bad, most likely. So make sure to continue to tune in to any weather channels, and then make sure to check with your local National Weather Service and their updates that they are posting. Sorry for all the stutters, but we just gotta go through it. And last but not least, once again, one more look at the National Hurricane Center cone. Areas in the blue in Mexico and in Cuba, those are tropical storm warnings, and then the areas in the pink are hurricane warnings. And then our rainfall potential could have up to a foot of rain in portions of Cuba. And then our wind speed probabilities already have a 90 to 100% chance of tropical storm wind speeds in the Gulf of Mexico. That is already going to, that is going to continue to get that is going to continue to be greater probabilities for that. And then our hurricane wind speed probabilities already have a 40 to 50% chance for those in the Gulf of Mexico, and that chance will also go up as the system moves closer. So once again, thank you for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one. Make sure to tune in to weather channels, whether it's me or somebody else. Make sure to keep paying attention to this. Don't sleep on the system. And if an evacuation order gets issued for your area, please leave. And make sure to get prepared. Get water, food, important documents, maybe a generator, gas in your cars, and anything else like that. So with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Have a good one, everybody.